look at basically what was the status. I mean, we want to read through with you on your submission, but later on you can, when you are developing your submissions.
Yes.
What was the status of AMU under the 1920 legislation? And we can look at what was the status as on the eve of the adoption of the Constitution. So what happened between 1920 and 25th of January 1950? Because after 26th of January 1950, there cannot be a change in status. Because if it is a minority institution as on 25th January 1950, then the right becomes absolute on the birth of the Constitution.
Correct.
So we will have to then see, and as Brother Suryakant was just saying a moment ago, 50 to 56 is a further window because UGC Act comes in 1956. But the first step is for us to see what happened in 1920, what was happening between 1920 and 1950.
Yes.
Right?
My immediate answer is, and I'll develop that, between 1920 and the Constitution coming into force, there is no change in the Act. 1920 remains as it is. The first amendment comes in 1951.
And second, is the 1920 legislation also consistent with recognizing the pre-existing history of AMU, namely the MAO college, that it was predominantly founded by minority? Or does the Act itself, the 1920 Act, result in the abrogation of any claim to minority status?
That's why
you will not call it minority status, because minority status has a certain connotation under the Constitution.
Yes.
Does the 1920, if I'll change my language, does the 1920 Act have the consequence of abrogating its status as a denominational institution?
Exactly.
Governed by a religious minority.
Absolutely. And your lordships are right, absolutely right. That I will have
you
to
could
show.
Not do that post-constitution, because you can't ask for a surrender of constitutional rights or fundamental.
Cannot be, but I can't argue.
Prior to the constitution, the regime was entirely different.
Yes, yes. My lord, that's my lord, why I am giving this history. My lord, the purpose of giving this history is this. Lord, my respectful reading of Aziz Basha is that Aziz Basha's ratio is that you had three options. A, remain a denominational institute, the way a part of you, Jamia Millia Islamia remain, or other institutions remain. Denominational or other unrecognized institution. Unrecognized in the sense that without any...
As a matter of just curiosity, what was the path which then Jamia followed?
Jamia remained an institution, remained a university, and thereafter, my lord, after this National Commission Act came in 2004, they applied for being declared a minority institution, and it was so declared.
That matter is still pending.
Still pending, my lord. Therefore, I'm not going beyond.
What you're arguing may have impact there also.
My lord,
may have impact.
My lord, I'm consciously, my lord, arguing only those parts which may not affect me here, but either. Your lordships are right. My lords are absolutely right.
And I was a member of the bench which admitted the petition. Let me tell you, the government over there had also changed their stand on Jamia Millia Islamia, whether it is a minority institution or not.
Possible. But I'm not, Lord, I didn't appear, but your lordships are right, my lord. Possible. There is
your distinction with Jamia for the purpose of this case may ultimately affect you in the Jamia case.
No. I'll be, my lord, conscious, my lord. Your lordships can write, my lord, or whatever.
Right. We will not trench into an area which is a subject matter
of another litigation, because Jamia is not here, my lord, otherwise also.
Right.
But, my lord, the point I'm making is Jamia is just an, my lord, illustration. There were several institutions.
So according to you, Jamia was born out of the desire to preserve the denominational status of a university,
which was surrendered
in the case of MAO.
Case of Aligarh. That I will show, and with pagination.
Let's go ahead.
But my lord, I'm really tempted, my lord, to show to your lordships, my lord, the pre-constitution. I'm sorry. Ali Brothers writes a letter to Raja of Mahmudabad, my lord, who was on the other side, my lord, in favor of Aligarh University being established. That these people are sent in the service of God, not service of British Crown. And therefore, what you have done is disastrous, etc. But leave it at that. There were institutions during that independence struggle time, like which ultimately became Vishwa Bharati, which had reputation, which used to grant degrees. Degrees were recognized, except in British Crown services. Please see that list. I am not reading the entire list. At page 11, Delhi College. No law of British Parliament. It was affiliated with University of Delhi. I'll just give some examples without going into Scottish Church College, Kolkata, item number 6. Presently a minority college affiliated to the University of Calcutta. It continued as an institution, continued as a minority. St. Stephen's is a pre-constitution institution. It continued continued to be affiliated with Delhi University. Please come to page 13, Roorkee College of Engineering, page 13. 1847, Government of Northwestern Province established College of Engineering at Roorkee in 1847. In 1853, college was renamed as Thomson College of Civil Engineering, which got affiliated to Calcutta University in the year 1864 and later to Allahabad University in 1894. The college was incorporated into Roorkee University with a Roorkee University Act 1948 passed by provincial legislature. In the year 2002, the university was incorporated as Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, and was declared as institution of national importance. But during pre-constitution, it chose to continue as an institution without any imperial legislation backing it. Then St. Stephen's College, item number 16, founded in 1881 by Cambridge Mission in Delhi in conjunction with, your lordships have para 16, in conjunction with Society of Propagation for Gospel. The college became one of the 3 original constituent colleges of University of Delhi when it was established in 1922. Delhi University was established thereafter. The college existed. Thereafter, my lord, please see, my lord, 25, page 16, my lord, very eminent, my lord, college, but now, my lord, a university, Gurukul Kangri, I think somewhere in Haryana, Gurukul Kangri now is a deemed university, was founded on March 4, 1902 by Swami Shraddhanandji, became the deemed university after enactment of UGC Act in the year 1962. Then, my lords, may kindly skip and come to 30. Dakshin Bharatiya Hindi Prachar Samiti. This is a linguistic minority institution in South India. In Karnataka, this is a leading institute. Dakshin Bharatiya Hindi Prachar Sabha was established by Mahatma Gandhi with the sole aim of propagating Hindi in southern states. The institute got the status of being an institute of national importance in 1964 by Dakshin Bharat Hindi Prachar Sabha Act 1964. The act came into force thereafter when Indian Parliament took it over. 33, Vishwa Bharati. Ravindranath, we say Tagore, it's also called Thakur, established an institution known as Vishwa Bharati at Shantiniketan, later established as a university and recognized as an institute of national importance with a Vishwa Bharati Act 1951. Lord, your lordships, I'll take your lordship through that. Lord, entry 63, that the central government has the power of declaring some of the institutions as institutions of all IIMs, IITs, etc. My lord, Vishwa Bharati is one of those, my lord. So, my lord, there were, my lord, I have given the illustrations. I am not reading, my lord, all the illustrations.
Where have you drawn this from, Mr.
Lord, this is from the public domain, my lord, from the.
That from individual colleges' websites, or is there some report from which you have got this?
From the websites, individual colleges' websites. But rest of them, my lord, I have given, my lord, the act, pagination, where would you, what your lordships find, my lord, in the document compilation, etc., from here onwards. But kindly now come to page 22, my lord, para 11. And here your lordships would find, my lord, the pagination and reference, everything. The birth of Jamia and AMU, the backdrop of Aligarh.
Kalakshetra at state number 44.
I'm sorry, my lord.
State number 44, Kalakshetra, very famous institution.
Very, very, yes, my lord. But I was, my lord.
Rukmini Devi under in 1936.
Yes, my lord. My lord, Rukmani Devi Arundale established this. No, I didn't want to, but each, my lord, for a 43, Indian Statistical Institute. It's now an institution of national importance. Lord, there are several which eventually, Lord, went on to become institution of nature. Banaras Engineering College, Lord, 31.
Now 22 you want us to go to, right?
30, yes, page 22. Well, there are several which chose, and the choice which was available with MAO, that is what Basha says. Basha doesn't say that because you have become a university, now you cannot have a minority status. No.
What are the indicia? Later on we'll again look at it. What are the indicia to indicate that when it was conferred with a university status, that it surrendered its minority status?
Yes.
The mere fact that it is converted, that it is given university status, does not amount to a surrender of this minority status.
No.
Or denominational status prior to independence. We'll have to independently see whether by the 1920 Act, the denominational character of AMU was lost. You have given us that little thing about, the Khilafat movement and everything.
I have given three compartments. I have given the correspondence which is already on record to show that there was a correspondence between Britain and MAO College, that you will have to do this if you want an act to be passed. Second, the debates in the Imperial Parliament, where Mr. Safi introduces the bill and keeps on surrendering, my lord, the denominational character. And third is the act itself. The act as it stood in 1920.
So your argument is it's not the enactment itself, but prior to the enactment.
Exactly. And his lordship says that it is the fact that you have surrendered and act came into effect. Now you cannot claim minority status. And I'll show that finding. Lord, Basha was very cursorily read. Some patches here, some patches there. Lord, I want your lordships to read Basha, Lord, the way I would wish your lordships to examine. I'll
return after lunch.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Silva.
Wait, please. So kindly come to page 23 of Roman 2F. Look, the submissions which I was reading. And here, my lord, I have given the references of the documents. 22 is the birth of Jamia and AMU, the backdrop of Aligarh split. My lord, I have orally submitted, but
Yeah.
page 23, small ABCD.
Yes.
It must be noted that original vision of AMU, as envisaged by Sir Syed, was based strongly on loyalism to the British. But I have given footnotes, my lord, etc. The split in the Aligarh movement began after the government refused to grant it the power to affiliate colleges outside Aligarh. Even prior to this, the Ali brothers had made attempts to rid the college administration of pro-government influences. The divide had become worse when two camps formed over the government refusal to allow affiliating powers to the MAO college. This rejection, along with events such as annulment of partition of Bengal, was seen by Muhammad Ali as betrayal of Muslims. Those willing to accept the government's proposal were headed by Maulana Aftab Ahmad Khan, the loyalists. My lord, every historian, my lord, described them as the loyalists, and later Muhammad Shafi. As a follower of what he
Mr.
called
Solicitor, when MAO, though it was called MAO College, was it basically a college or was it in the nature of college plus like a university, or is it purely a
it
college?
was a college affiliated to
Allahabad
Allahabad University, the way St. Stephen is today a college affiliated to Delhi University.
MAO was, by all accounts, only a college.
It was a college.
Only in the sense it was exclusively a college.
Tertiary education was given by the college, hence the degrees. Because we are concerned with tertiary education now, not secondary. Because sometimes one associates college with secondary information, education. But MAO had degrees and therefore it was involved in tertiary education as well. That's why the
It
degree.
could have continued that way. Let us put it that way.
It was a
without going into-
post-high school institution.
That's right.
Well, yes, my lord. Otherwise, they needed no affiliation with the university. So it is not correct to say that MAO was giving degrees. MAO was affiliated with
Allahabad.
Allahabad University, and Allahabad University used to give degrees.
Right.
So degrees of MAO was recognized by Allahabad University.
Right.
But
no, not degrees of MAO. Allahabad,
MAO.
the degree
The
was
courses, I'm sorry, courses of MAO were recognized by Allahabad
It
University.
was an affiliating college of Allahabad.
Yes.
Yes.
There is no dispute on that.
We may not be very sure whether courses were recognized or not, but the fact of the matter is degrees were given by Allahabad.
Correct. As a follower of what he called the Anglo-Mohammedan school of politics, Mr. Shafi regarded his community's interests to be identical with those of the government and refused to take part in anything calculated in the slightest degree to injure British interests and to weaken the stability and permanence of British rule in India. But he is the one who introduced Aligarh, this 2020 Act. I'll show that from the debates. Those opposed were led by Ali brothers and Hasrat Mohani, who wanted both Muslim control of the university and the power of affiliation. Well, Hasrat Mohani was a member of the Constituent Assembly representing the Muslim League, one of the finest Urdu lyricists. The Ali brothers and their followers were also sympathetic to the Turkey and opposed the British actions against Turkey during the First World War. Furthermore, Muhammad Ali's influence over Aligarh student body was noted to cause great difficulties for MAO college principal Dr. So-and-so. After the BHU Act was passed, those in favor, that was in 2015. 1915. I stand correct. 1915. After the BHU Act was passed, those in favor of accepting the government proposal began to mount pressure, stating that this made clear that any Muslim university would have to be on the same lines as BHU. At a vote held on the question of Muslim university associated on the question of accepting the government's terms, the loyalist one, that is pro-British one, that is volume 4D. I'm not reading, but this is the reference. This caused a formal split in the movement. In April 1917, the University Foundation Committee decided to accept the government's proposals without conditions, though Muhammad Ali remained opposed to the same. That is, my lord, Muhammad Ali is one of the Ali brothers, my lord. In 1920, it was agreed between the government and the Aligarh group to bring the university bill in the legislature. At around the same time, Gandhi ji, my lord, I'm sorry, it's a typo. It should be Gandhi ji, my lord, it's Gandhi instead of Gandhi. Kindly pardon me, my lord, and allow me to correct. Came into contact with Maulana Muhammad Ali and Hasrat Mohani and began promoting the Khilafat movement, because for Gandhi ji, it was, my lord, anti-British freedom struggle. So wherever, my lord, he could get support of anti-British sentiments, Mahatma Gandhi ji, my lord, used to take that. The rapid introduction of the AMU bill was seen to be an attempt to bring the Muslims to the government side in the face of anti-government sentiment among them during the non-cooperation movement. Subsequently, pro-Khilafat group wrote a letter to the university authorities asking them to stop receiving government aid. Well, there is a letter which is on record. From the beginning, I have placed that letter on record. Maulana Muhammad Ali called on the Aligarh trustees to participate in the non-cooperation movement. On October 12, 1920, Ali brothers and Mahatma Gandhi visited the college and asked it to stop accepting government aid. That was again a non-cooperation movement. At this meeting, even certain members of the Aligarh trustees resolved that if the college did not break ties with
These
the...
are all new facts, because now we're not looking at documents.
My lord,
We're looking at a very contentious part of our history. Loyalists, non-loyalists, etc. This is an imposition from a book, my lord.
Lord,
Let them stick to the pleadings.
my learned friend may not be aware, these documents 4D are placed by them. I am relying upon it.
No, definitely not.
And it is on record, my lord, since your lordships directed that this, my lord, PDF file be kept ready. This is not something new I am placing on record.
At the same time, this is also what broadly the parameters I drew up when I was doing the Jammu and Kashmir judgment. That's something which is in a book, which is written by someone, however eminent the author,
Yes.
is after all secondary material.
Correct.
Official documents, official statutes.
Some of them are letters. Some of them are letters. They may not have read it.
Right.
Read
But
them.
something which is in a book, one sort of doesn't treat that as primary.
I rely upon the letters. The letters would not reflect these positions.
So what was the impact of the act, which is the second
Yes.
part which you are going to argue? Certainly, absolutely, that's beyond doubt, because you have an act of the legislature and we have to interpret the act,
Correct.
what the act does. But we have to be a little careful when we are dealing with underlying materials such as books, because books you will also find on both sides, depending on which side of the spectrum you are.
Well, I leave it there. But I must say, this has been on record, placed by them. Now they're objecting
Fair
because
enough.
they have not
Look at
read it.
we
It's
look at
unfair.
it. We look at it. The evidentiary standard, of course, to a book which
Your
is
lordships
authored by
may not take that into consideration, but the 4D is, my lord, filed on 10th of January 2024, the last day of, my lord, of filing of documents. Much before they started arguing.
all right.
My lord, and my lord, with profound respect, I don't want to, it's a petty thing to argue before a 7-judge bench. They relied upon some portion from 4D.
4D was filed by them, my lord.
My lord, they relied upon them, but
All
leave
right,
it at that. My lord,
let's see it.
I don't want to, my lord, reduce the level of this
We
debate.
are just entering a small caveat on so far as books are concerned, because
Yes.
books could be it's after all historical account. We have to
Yes.
also
My lord, please come to J, my lord. During the said time, my lord, this is, my lord, a resolution which is on record. During the said time, the Aligarh students also began to participate actively in non-cooperation movement and passed a resolution on October 13, asking the university authorities to disaffiliate the college, failing which the students would employ all means to turn the college into a national organization under the control of the Central Khilafat Committee. The British and the Aligarh authorities asked alumni associations to persuade students to give up their demands, and the Shahranpur AMU Old Boys Association passed a resolution condemning the same. The party represented by Mr. Sibal the Old Boys Association. The leaders supporting the non-cooperation movement assured Aligarh students that AMU college would be turned into a national university and asked them to enroll in the new university. The Deoband Theological School issued a fatwa asking students to leave the AMU college and enroll in the proposed new national university. On October 27, the Aligarh Board of Trustees voted to direct Maulana Muhammad Ali and his supporters to vacate the hostel of AMU college and close the college for a month. Lord, the other group, Lord, that order is on record. Finally, Maulana Muhammad Ali and his followers vacated the college on October 29, 1920 and announced setting up of Jamia Millia Islamia. The intent of the new college was declared to be the purification of AMU college, and it was intended to counter the government influenced university at Aligarh. Therefore, when the endeavor of Ali brothers did not succeed, they broke away to establish the Jamia Millia Islamia as a national Muslim university. The Jamia Millia Islamia was created expressly to be an independent institution which was not dependent on government grants or otherwise subject to government control, as opposed to the full government control support enjoyed by AMU. This is a letter written by Ali brothers to Raja of Mahmudabad. That letter is on record. I'm not reading it, but this is, my lord, I'm paraphrasing. I have paraphrased it. In fact,
Mr. Solicitor, there may be a problem in this line of argument. We assume for a moment that there were two factions, right? You had the loyalist faction, which was of the view that you must dovetail your efforts in line with the then imperial government's efforts. There was then the other faction, which was probably encouraged by Gandhiji as well, namely those who were supporting the Khilafat movement and non-cooperation. According to you, they broke away and they formed Jamia. Assuming that is so, the fact that the loyalist faction was more, in line with the British government then, does not deprive it of its minority character. The fact that they were in alignment with the views of the then imperial power does not make it any the less an institution founded by a minority. Founded by a minority does not mean that you have to be in opposition to the then government.
no.
Today, you may have a minority institution which is perfectly, on the side of the government on very important issues. That does not change its minority character.
I'm not on that. My lord, kindly allow me to say.
Therefore, this really to say that, there were two factions and one was, pro-loyalist, one was loyalist, one was with the British government, the other one was, with the nationalist movement. This will not have a bearing on whether it was it ceased to be a minority institution.
Your lordships may, my lord, I would earnestly request to defer that conclusion for the time being. My lord, there is a reason why I am showing that.
We are not drawing a conclusion.
No,
we are just saying that this hypothesis is equally consistent with the fact that a minority institution may politically be aligned or may not be aligned with the government.
Not on that. I'm not on, my lord, because they were politically aligned to British, they were not minority. That's not my case. My lord, I am building up a case based upon the finding of fact recorded in Aziz Basha, that because of this you have surrendered your right. This is, my lord, they may find, my lord, these facts inconvenient, but they are on record. Your lordships may, at the end of my respectful submissions, may choose, my lord, to rely upon it, partly rely upon it, or completely ignore it.
Your argument is that there was therefore a surrender of the minority state.
Yes, my lord, that's the finding. The finding is not that because you are a university, you can never be a minority institution the way they apprehend. That's not the finding. I am just trying to show how historically you surrendered what others did not. Others also had this option of surrendering their rights as a denominational institution and go before the government of the then crown and let that act be passed. But they continued their existence, dehorsed the government. No Article 30 was not in existence. You could have surrendered, you could have stuck to your ground. Vishwa Bharati stuck to its ground.
So they continued to award degrees which were not recognized by the government.
Yes, and subsequently, my lord, when the India became free, when UGC Act came, my lord, all these institutions which continued their denominational character or their independent character, they were recognized as either universities or deemed to be universities. I'll show the scheme of the Act. Section 3 says that if you have an institution, then in consultation with UGC, central government declare you to be deemed to be university. So they are now declared to be deemed to be university. But that option, this particular institution did not exercise, and therefore Aziz Basha says, you have surrendered. That is the ratio of Aziz Basha. So therefore, I'm respectfully,
We got your point.
it won't take more time, Malone.
Yes.
Yeah, my intention is not that because they sided with British, don't trust them. That's not the idea. They had every right, my lord, to take their own political stand, and they took the political stand. Maybe that was a beneficial stand for the community, for the student, for the college. I do not know. I don't sit in judgment over them. Now, please see, my lord, 13. My lord, 13, your lordships can, my lord, skip. Now, kindly come to page 26, bottom. Now, my lord, post AMU developments.
Actually, 13, just read 13, Gandhiji's statement
Yes.
that supports your submission. Just
Yes.
read that statement by Gandhiji.
In fact, new institutions such as Jamia and Kashi Vidyapit were established specifically to provide education on nationalist lines, in contrast to AMU's loyalist approach. In a speech, Gandhi ji, my lord, I'm extremely sorry, my lord, my apologies. No, never do this. Mistake again. Himself noted the government controlled character if the university as follows. I have myself appealed to thousands of parents at which hardly a parent has objected to the opposition proposition of leaving government controlled schools. I therefore take leave to think the parents of Aligarh boys are not less convinced than the others of the necessity of withdrawing their children from the schools and controlled by the schools and controlled by the government that has uh, participated in betraying the Muslims in India and has wantonly humiliated the nation through its barbarous treatment of Punjab. Shall we not free
Jallianwala Bagh.
Jallianwala? This is near historically Jallianwala Bagh episode is being referred to by Mahatma Gandhi ji. That is 1919, my lord, Jallianwala Bagh. Shall we not free them, boys, from the curse of slavery which has made us crawl on our bellies? Surely they would not need government university degrees. Our existing religious and charitable Hindu and Muslim funds can support our education without even a week of self-denial. Personal view. But answer.
after Gandhiji's quotation, there is a reference to contemporary material. And this is what we are objecting to. Just see after that, it says, therefore, even contemporary material clearly suggests. But this is very wayward, my lord.
When I would read Bhasha, I will read the
No,
act.
but we read Bhasha,
Your-
we read
your-
Bhasha.
It's not Bhasha,
Bhasha
it's
says
Bhasha.
surrender only in respect of property, nothing else.
Lord,
The word surrender, if used, my lord, is only in respect of property, nothing else.
Lord, if
My lord,
I would
I
have done this,
understand-
he would have abused me like a pedestrian, my lord, but I'll not do it.
Come along now, let's.
My lord, I'm sorry, it's a legitimate, my lord, concern that we have
All right,
placed.
You interrupted me at a very right time. That I must give you.
we-
At a very
royalists, they rely upon Shri Khan, my lord, Sayyid Ahmad Khan, who is the person who started this colleges from primary school to AMU. His book, The Loyal Musalman, was written, and the whole purpose of this MAO, based on that, was to create a body of educated Muslims who are loyal subjects. That is his own book. So other books may be discarded, but the founder on whom they rely has written The Loyal Musalman.
My lord, this is
And he
still,
also wrote, my lord, a book about 1857 rebellion, absolving, my lord, that Muslims were not primarily responsible. Only few people who were divergent, my lord, they were participants. So I don't know why you should object.
no, my lord, this is all
That's a
secondary.
historical-
basically, my
This
lord,
is
the
all
way in
secondary
which
material.
Bhasha was read, the
And
way in which
Avila-
act was read.
Even the term
All
nationalist.
right,
First
now
of
can
all,
you see this?
Nationalist
We are in
has
the
a
midst
meaning,
of an
my lord,
argument.
in
That's all right.
literature.
We'll hear you in rejoinder. Now, Mr. Solicitor,
Another-
conclude that part
even
of the.
Bhasha, while reading Bhasha, look at this, what he says. The learned judges do not become he after retirement. Look, they were ridiculed, my lord. I want to show that they were aware of this history, which is recorded in Bhasha. You can't pick up some paragraphs here and there and start, my lord, ridiculing the judgment. I'm living at that, ridiculing the judgment.
Let's have a look at
Yes.
what you have said.
My lord, if he has any objection, my lord, I'll welcome that objection. Please see, is there anything objectionable to it?
Para 14, let's see at least. We'll
Para
have to go-
17, my lord, para 17. Well, your lordship may skip 14 and 15. Please come to 17. After it is submitted that post-establishment of the AMU, the education system in the country developed in the following manner. Lord, I have given how the statutory regime changed. How someone can object to this being shown to the court? Lord, 20 Aligarh Muslim University Act is passed. Conference of Vice Chancellors of existing universities to establish an inter-university board was held in Shimla. Then 25, inter-university board was established with the following objectives. Then, my lord, 1935 Government of India Act included provisions related to regulation of higher education. It divided legislative powers between central government and provincial governments in matters related to higher education. Both the central and provincial legislature had the authority to make laws, etc., etc., my lord. Ultimately, my lord, I have said, my lord, at the end, 1952, Government of India set up an interim university grant commission, and, my lord, Act is passed in 1956. What is objectionable in this? This is, my lord, a history known to each one of us. This is the way in which regime post-independence progress.
Para 18, let's see how you
My
form.
lord, before that, my lord, now please see, as your lordship, my lord, we put a very pertinent query. My lord, kindly come to volume 2B, page 62. How, my lord, your lordships, my lord, very pertinently put that how can you show that there was a conscious decision to surrender?
2B62.
2B, page 62. Lord, this is also filed long back, including this table with relevant paginations from the material. I am just, my lord, taking care of a possible interruption.
Actually, volume 2B, page 62 is your written submission or what is it?
Yes, my lord. It's my written submissions, my lord. The title is Basha and the Character of Aligarh Muslim University. But first, 1612-1870, a private committee was set up by the name of Committee for Better Diffusion and Advancement of Learning amongst the Mohammedans of India. Then, my lord, 15th April 1872. This I have taken from a letter of private secretary to the viceroy. My lord, please see the source which is on record since beginning. The committee submitted its report. The report suggested and outlined the structure of a Mohammedan Oriental College. The idea behind the same was to bring the Muslims on par with current developments in the world. It emerges that one of the principal aims of the committee was the promotion of Western arts and sciences and not just religious study. Then 1873, your lordships can skip that, but I'll read for completeness. A scheme was proposed for the Mohammedan Oriental College. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan proposed that the word college in the name of MAO College be substituted with university. When the proposal is sent to the government, it replied that if a Mohammedan university is sought to be established, then no grants in aid would be receivable from the government. We cannot after constitution, British government could and they did. Now, my lord, 24th of May, 87. Opening ceremony of MAO College is held in Aligarh. It may be noted that as per the some records, my lord, your lordships can skip the first part. Further, land of 74 acres on which the entire MAO College was set up was given by Lieutenant Governor Sir John Strachey in the cantonment area of Aligarh. The relevant portion of the said book is as under. This fact is not in dispute, that 74 acres land is given by the British. This shows that national character of MAO College itself, and also shows how persons from all walks of life contributed to the proposed institution. This further shows that MAO College itself was wholly established on government land and not land acquired by minority community. This is not the only argument, my lord, your lordship. This is one of the facts I have stated. Then a letter from the secretary of MAO College notes that MAO College is an institution dependent on government funds. Then 8/1/1877, the foundation of MAO College was laid by Sir Syed on the land of the British government in Aligarh cantonment. Then, my lord, your lordships can come to 1897. I'll skip, my lord, what is not relevant, my lord. I have understood, my lord, what is being, my lord, conveyed. 1897, address by Sir Mahmud on Lord Elgin, Viceroy and Governor General of India. In his address, Sir Syed spoke of his achievements that the MAO College had made in the field of education, but lamented that the ultimate goal before it, the attainment of university for the Mohammedans of India, similar to the great English University of Oxford and Cambridge. This clearly shows that the actual aim was an open, secular, scientific institution for public good and not merely a minority institution. The minority element was a small portion of larger idea of Sir Syed. Several prominent individuals associated with MAO College propounded various different ideas for the university. I'm not reading because they were not accepted.
But, Mr. Solicitor, there again, your note, which you have put there, that really is fundamentally inconsistent with our principles underlying Article 30. A minority institution may set up a purely secular form of educational institution. You can set up a minority can set up an architect's college. It can set up a medical college.
I bow down to that. There is no quarrel. I am, my lord,
But where you say the minority element was a small portion of the larger idea of Sir Syed, this may not be a correct constitutional test to apply.
The
We
difficulty,
take it that Sir Syed's idea was to set up entirely a secular education institute.
can still be a minority.
It
I'm
still
not
can be
on
a
that.
minority institution.
My lord, I am not on that. My lord, the difficulty is we are testing something which happened in 1920 based on Article 30, which was not there at that point of time.
Just one more thing. Just read the statement. Ultimate goal was attainment of university for Mohammedans
Yes, my lord.
of India.
Correct, my lord.
So
For
that was
Mohammedans
for-
for India. My lord, therefore I have said
To
that.
that extent,
But that also does not make, as my lord the Chief Justice says, absent this also doesn't make any difference. Presence this also does not make any difference. This is a part of narration of history I'm giving. I'm not saying that because it was teaching other subjects or it was intending to teach other subjects, it was not a minority. That's not my argument. And please, my lord, do not evaluate 1920 Act in light of Article 30, which came subsequently. It under Article 13, if there is anything,
No, but the facts as they transpired in 1920 and before that would have a bearing on whether they are entitled to the protection of Article 30.
that's exactly what I'm trying to
So we
show.
are not pitchforking Article 30 in 1920, no. In
No.
1920, they didn't have the benefit of minority status
No, even
because there was no constitution. But the facts as they unveiled in 1920 have a bearing on what is the nature of the institution.
correct.
No,
I
it's-
bow down. No, your lordships are absolutely right. I respectfully bow down. Your lordships would decide whether AMU had minority status as on 1920 based upon two things: what transpired when the act was passed.
Not whether it had minority status as on 1920, as to whether it acquired a minority status as on 26 January 1950, based on the facts pertaining to its establishment. Because establishment can happen post-constitution.
Correct.
Establishment can happen
My
pre-constitution.
lord, can
So
I
we have to look at the facts antecedent to the establishment and surrounding the establishment.
please, my lord, look at
to
it
deduce
from
what
that
is the true
angle.
character of the institution.
Please look at it from that angle. I must give the
Right.
true facts. My lord,
Right.
I don't have the luxury of reading some paragraphs from here, some paragraph from there, leaving relevant paragraph. I am giving the true
Right.
facts, historical facts. I am conscious of the fact that if it would not have been the word Mohammedan University, there would not have been any change.
difference.
Presence of that word does not make any change. This is what happened. Now your lordships may come to, my lord, 3611, my lord. At page 65. AP Habit, your lordship, have, my lord? J.P. Habit, Lieutenant Governor of the United Provinces, writes to Harcourt. My lord, it's Lord Harcourt Butler, my lord. My lord, he is member of the Governor General's Council. My lord, a step before that, May 91, if your lordship don't mind, my lord. Just to know who the Harcourt Butler is, because he is the one who has correspondent, my lord, entered into correspondence with everyone. Some representative seeking the university met Harcourt Butler, member of the Governor General's Council, for setting up of a Muslim university. J.P. Habit, Lieutenant Governor of the whole United Provinces, writes to Harcourt stating that the university at Aligarh is not to be denominational, and kindly mark this, it's not to be denominational, and the control of government over the university should be evident and effective, not regulation. This was the condition. It would not be denominational, meaning thereby it would not be a minority institution. And we will have our control. Which control? Which is evident and effective. Note, this shows that from the very inception, the imperial government was clear on its stance that the demand for establishing a university by way of an enactment would only be accepted if the control substantially vests with the secular non-minority authorities. Then, my lord, next, the Secretary of State writes to the Viceroy on the need for governmental control over the AMU. He states, your telegram of the 10th June, I approve in principle of the establishment of a university at Aligarh, subject to reservation of adequate control and provision of adequate funds, and provided that my freedom of action is reserved, I sanction negotiations. Then, my Lord, Secretary of State writes to the Viceroy on the need for governmental control of the AMU. He states, your telegram of the 10th, my Lord, it's a repetition, my Lord. My apologies, my Lord. Then next, the Secretary of State communicated the readiness to sanction the creation of a university subject to the condition that its constitution was acceptable to the government of India. Well, that is the British government. This again emphatically suggests that the government was never accepting an institution formed by a particular religion. Then later by Sir Harcourt Butler to the Raja Sir Mahmud Khan, conveying the decision of the Secretary of the State regarding the Muslim University at Aligarh. In the letter, Sri Harcourt Butler points out, the Secretary of State has decided, after mature consideration, that the proposed university shall not have powers of affiliation outside the locality in which it may be established. He also conveyed that the Chancellor could be elected and that the powers which it was proposed to vest in the Chancellor should be exercised by the Governor General in Council, with one exception, namely, the professor should not be appointed without previous approval of Governor General in Council. The Raja of Mahmudabad writes to Sir Herbert Butler and states as follows. There is undoubtedly very strong opinion that objection to word Muslim is being taken by many as part of the policy of Christian nations on to crush Islam. We suggest Aligarh Muslim University, and should Hindu University materialize, we suggest for the Banaras Hindu University. These names naturally grow out of existing names of Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College and Central Hindu College. And unless there are objections of overwhelming weight, we think it a concession that might well be made to the local sentiments, that let both of them retain their respective Hindu and Muslim names so far as name of the university is concerned. Then, my Lord, next, 26th Mohammedan Educational Conference at Lucknow. My Lord, this resolution is on record. President Major Sayyid Hassan Bilgrami, in his address to the conference, observed that the decision of the Secretary of State in transferring powers from the Chancellor to the Government of India resulted in practically making the university a government institution instead of a communal one. Well, these are all factors your lordships would bear in mind. But whether I succeed or not, that's not the issue. These are the factors which must be brought to my Lord's notice. Please see, my Lord, the resolution. This meeting views the decision of His Majesty's Secretary of State as contained in the letter of the Honorable Sir Harcourt Butler, dated Simla 9th August, with profound disappointment and regret. Having regard to the views expressed by the Constitution Committee, and in this Constitution Committee of, my Lord, Constitution of AMU, not our Constitution, in the course of discussion amongst others, one, that the name of university should be the Muslim University. Two, with regard to the control, the powers proposed to be vested in the Chancellor should not be vested in the Governor General in Council. This precisely happened thereafter. Then three, the powers mentioned in clause 5, chapter 3 of the statute should be the same as conferred on the patron, it should be pattern under section 41 of the rules and regulations of trustees of Aligarh College. 4, this was also not followed. With regard to affiliation, the statute should remain as proposed. And 5, the provisions of the Constitution relating to the powers of the court, the council and the Senate should not be modified. This was modified. I'll show that when the act, my Lord, is brought to your Lordship's notice. And further, having regard to the momentous issues involved therein, this meeting appoints a committee of the following gentlemen with full powers and authority to act and finally settle all matters relating to Muslim University in such manner as may seem proper to them in the best interest of the community, and to wait in deputation of His Excellency the Viceroy to make all necessary representation in this behalf. Then, my Lord, next date, 6th August 1930, the Muslim Gazette, which recorded the meeting of the Foundation Committee at Aligarh, indicated that a group within the committee was willing to accept unhesitatingly whatever form of university that the government was willing to offer. Then 15, demi-official letter from Mr. H. Sharp to Sir Harcourt Butler indicated that while the proposed university would be called the Aligarh Muslim University, its setup as regards control would be along the lines of Banaras Hindu University. Banaras Hindu University had full control of the British government. Lord H. Sharp, my Lord, if your Lordships can just note down, he is Secretary Education to the Crown. To the Viceroy, I stand corrected. My apologies, my Lord. My learned friend Mr. Vived is right. Secretary to the Viceroy. Then 24 September 1950, demi-official letter by Sir Harcourt Butler to Raja Sir Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Khan Bahadur. In this letter, Sir Butler indicates that the acceptance of government's proposal as regards the question of principle, such as control, etc., over which there has been prolonged discussion with connection with Hindu University, is an absolute condition precedent for further action. There would be a government control. Take it or leave it. Then October 15, at a meeting of the Muslim University Association, the organization votes to accept the proposal of the government for a university on the same lines as Banaras Hindu University. Then resolution of the Muslim University Committee. The following has been observed. Having regard to the refusal of the government to grant to Mohammedans a university on any principle other than those granted to Hindus, this meeting of Muslim University Foundation Committee has no other alternative at present but to accept the principles of Hindu University. Kindly note, the Banaras Hindu University Act came into force on 1st of October 1915. Immediately thereafter, my Lord, they also say that, all right, we withdraw all our demands and we are happy if it is given in line with Banaras Hindu University. Then, my Lord, next, 27th August 1970, in a meeting between Aligarh Muslim University Regulations Committee and Education member Mr. Shankaran Nair, it was stated by Mr. Nair that if the government was to recognize the degrees of the college, it would also want control over standard setting in examinations. This was accepted by the Regulation Committee without objection. Members of the Regulation Committee themselves agreed to the appointment of the University Vice Chancellor being subject to veto of the Government of India. They stated that the reason for this was that the university was meant to be all India in character. It was stated as under. The reason assigned for this preference both here and in other places was that the Government of India would be free from local prejudice and that the university will be an all India institution. Sir Shankaran Nair said that Governor General in Council would act only on the advice of local government, that it would actually be to the advantage of the university to place these powers in the hands of the Lieutenant Governor, to whom they could have access and whom they would more easily be able to persuade, as indeed the Banaras University had just persuaded the Lieutenant Governor to reverse the course of action decided upon by himself and the Government of India. He also said that things were tending towards local autonomy. The members of the committee said they would prefer to wait until the time arrived. Then, my Lord, notes of H. Sharp, Secretary, Department of Education, Government of India, while discussing the draft constitution of the proposed university. My Lord, please, my Lord, allow me to read this. My Lord, this would have bearing, my Lord. General principles which should regulate the organization of the university. I suggest two, which should be kept in mind during further negotiations. A. 1. The Banaras precedent should be followed, save where the promoters desire a change which is unessential or an actual improvement. Such changes as the omission of the syndicate and unicollegiate character of the university. Adherence to the constitution of the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College should not be permitted, as an argument in support of mischievous departure from Banaras model or relaxation of essential conditions. The arguments was actually used by members, that is, in the matter of dismissing staff. But such an argument entirely overlooks the fact that a college is not a university and that a certain amount of wholesome control has hitherto been exercised over Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College by the University of Allahabad. Similarly, as a minor consideration, the argument put forward that Allahabad is a government university should not be permitted to weigh in. The statement is incorrect and the implication is misleading. Then main political considerations. The promoters undoubtedly have political as well as educational aims. They would like to spread a network of Islamic colleges over India affiliated to Aligarh. But they know this will not be allowed and have wisely chosen a unicollegiate form of university. They will possibly attempt to make Aligarh a center of Muslim political movement, perhaps a pan-Islamic movement. This can be guarded against by insisting in a reasonable composition in the governing bodies, proper conditions for admission, and a wide framing of clause 6 in view of possible political activities. They have all along desired network of Islamic schools recognized by the university. They have now wisely abandoned the claim to recognition. Proceeding paragraph 11 and 33. They want to be free of all control by Lieutenant Governor, partly as a matter of izzat, that is respect, partly because they anticipate greater leniency from the government of India. See proceeding number so and so. It would seem from paragraph 7 that they were willing to give way on this point. Afterwards, they took counsel together and stiffened. But I think they will give way if pressed. The plea of an all India institution can be countered by the Banaras analogy. Then, my lord, your lordships can, my lord, consider skipping, unless except, my lord, at page 70, the underlined portion, my lord. The bill. The education aspects of the case can best be dealt with during the consideration of the documents. The notes and proceedings touch all the important points. I comment below on the following, on the proceedings. Power of Governor General in Council, proceedings paragraph 17, the proposed clause 6 is insufficient. Clause 19 of Banaras bill should be reproduced. Power of the visitor, promoters not to have a visitor stall can be met. There would immediately be an outcry from the Hindus. The Lieutenant Governor should be visitor and should have the powers given in section 6 of the Banaras Act. The visitor should also have the power of sanctioning statutes and regulations as in section 17.5 and 18.5 of the Banaras Act. See proceeding so and so. I'll show, my lord, from the provisions which were not shown to your lordships. The court is not the final body for all statutes. I'll show that, my lord, when I come to that. Then powers of the court. The following powers of the courts are excessive and should be disallowed. The power of interpretation, the sanctioning of regulation, etc. Senate and syndicate. There will be no syndicate. This is not necessary, provided a subcommittee can be appointed. Proceeding para so and so. If the power of the court are properly curtailed, those of the Senate appear sufficient, but should perhaps be made subject to the Act, etc., etc. Then your lordships can, my lord, skip and please come to page 72. 1918. Later by Sir, your lordship gets, my lords. Later by Sir E.D. Maglan, Secretary to the Government of India, to the Chief Secretary to the Government of United Provinces. My lord, this is, my lord, a part of the record, volume 4D, PDF page 1089. The letter is placed on record. As his honor, the Lieutenant Governor is aware, the Government of India wrote a war during the year 1911-12 in correspondence with the Secretary of State regarding proposal to establish a Muslim university at Aligarh, and the Secretary of State communicated his approval of the institution of the proposed university subject to certain remarks and criticisms put forward. by then under discussion. The principles then indicated by the Secretary of State have formed the basis of Banaras Hindu University University Act 1915, and it is a university. It is now presumed that any legislation for the establishment of a Muslim university at Aligarh must conform in all matters of substance with the provisions of the legislation already passed by the Hindu University at Banaras. At a meeting of Muslim University Foundation Committee held at Aligarh on 8th April 1917, it was resolved that committee was prepared to accept the best university on the lines of Hindu University, and authority was given to the regulation committee of the proposed Muslim university to take the necessary steps for the introduction of a Muslim university bill in the Imperial Legislative Council. Now your lordships may directly come to, my lord, page 75. Lord, this is in the same lines, that government control, no denominational character, and Lord, page 75. No, my lord, denominational character, B, absolute government control, and C, at par with and on line of BHU. Lord, page 75, 8/5/1920. Telegram from the Secretary to the Government of India, United Provinces, Judicial Department to Secretary to the Government of India, Department of Education. The telegram compares the BHU Act and draft bill for AMU. On a comparison, it notes the following. Lord, please see 2, A2, a comparison of Muslim University draft bill with Banaras Hindu University Act shows that 2, alterations, additions, amendments or repeal of statutes and B, ordinances in the case of Muslim University bill that is subject to the veto of Governor General in Council, while in case of Banaras Hindu University, they require the previous approval of the visitor. That they have, AMU had omitted that. He objects to that. It is also noted that certain powers vested under the Banaras Hindu University Act in the visitor have, according to the draft Muslim University bill, been transferred to the Governor General in Council. In other words, while official control in this respect is in no way affected, only the agency exercises that control is changed from local to imperial government. Now, bearing in mind the fact that Aligarh and Banaras universities are all India and not merely provincial institutions, and that in future, as a result of the scheme of constitutional reforms introduced under the Government of India Act 1919, these two universities will be not provincial but central subjects. It is necessarily follows that the proposed modifications are not only in no way opposed to principle, but in the highest degree desirable. This were the seeds sown for entry 63. It follows, therefore, that unless the modifications proposed in the draft Muslim University Bill are retained, the Government of India control over these two universities will really be nominal, and as a result, the very object for which the Aligarh and Banaras universities are constituted as a central subject will be defeated. What in fact the proposed draft does bring about is that while leaving sufficient measure of control in the hands of the local government, insofar as it is at all necessary, it tightens the control of Governor General in Council over these all India universities. The account of the university will include expenditure of the imperial recurring grant. These must therefore be submitted to the Government of India. New statutes and ordinances will be framed by virtue of power given by the Imperial Act to a university constituting a central subject, which will, under the reform scheme, be under the control of the Government of India and not under the provincial government. These must therefore be subject to the veto of Governor General in Council and not of the local government. To enact otherwise would result not only in the abdication by the imperial government of its own powers as well as responsibilities, but may also lead to undesirable results. Now, your lordships may kindly come to page 77 at the foot. Now, my lord, the bill is introduced. My lord, which your lordships, my lord, I said the second limb would be after the history, what happened in the imperial parliament, in the, my lord, when the bill was passed. Ultimately, Mr. Shafi, my lord, who was one of the liberals, he introduced the bill. He seems to be a member of this imperial parliament also, imperial council also, I'm sorry. Your lordships have on the bottom of page 77.
77.
Discussion on the AMU Bill 1920, my lord. That is, my lord, Imperial Council. That is, my lord, delegate of the Parliament, British Parliament. Mr. Shafi introduced the bill for the establishment of a university and moved to refer the bill to a select committee. The relevant extracts of his speech are as follows. This was the reason why I said that Mr. Shafi led one group and Ali brothers led other group. That was the only relevance. The Secretary of State on 18th July approved the principle of establishment of such a university subject to reservation of adequate control and provision of adequate funds, and while reserving his own freedom of action, sanctioned the proposed negotiations with the association. Meanwhile, the Hindu leaders, who too had in their turn approached the government of India with a scheme, the establishment of a Hindu university at Banaras, guided by the practical spirit, within bracket, which is one of their characteristics. This I don't know, it's a compliment, I take it as a compliment. Practical spirit, which is one of their characteristics, accepted the conditions laid down by the Secretary of State, with the result that a bill for the establishment of Banaras University was prepared, and after having passed through the Imperial Legislative Council, received the assent of the Governor General on the 1st October 1915. An undertaking was at that time given by the government to the Hindu leaders that the university to be granted to the Muslim community would also be on the same lines of Hindu University Act. This position, as clearly explained to the Muslim leaders and the government of India, have all along been ready and willing to act up to that undertaking, and the government, they say on the floor of the parliament that we will be at par with Hindu University. There cannot be anything more to suggest that they surrender their right to continue as a minority institution. Then further, honorable members are aware that education, including university education, has in the past been a provincial subject. Legislation regarding the Banaras University was framed in consonance with the state of things, and all official control, in consequence, reserved to the provincial government, recognizing the all India character of Banaras and Aligarh universities. The rules framed under the new Government of India Act have now proposed that these two universities should be central subject, and the responsibility in connection therewith will henceforward rest on the shoulders of the Government of India. Now, your lordships, my lord, kindly come to, my lord, next page, Sayyid Muhammad Ali. My lord, he is not one of those Ali brothers, but a different Muhammad Ali. My lord, this is at page 79. Does your lordships get, my lord? I'm skipping something which might, my lord, at times become boring without rendering any assistance. Sayyid Muhammad Ali, a university, they pointed out, must be a national organization calculated to subserve the various and varying needs of the different communities, their cultural genius, and their industries and their trade, which are to be served by it. About the former, the Muslim community has felt compelled to accept the later academic opinion there is no room in future for an affiliating type of a university, and that the best interest of educating will be served by a local university. Regarding the later, the community has reluctantly accepted the limitation of the control imposed by the government. I should like to draw attention to another important point. The Mohammedans have always felt the need of secular education being supplemented by religious instruction. They have always felt that nothing can be more deplorable, more subversive of discipline, more detrimental to the development of entire manhood and character than to train and educate the youth of the country in godless education. It is therefore a matter of satisfaction that promoters of the scheme have made religious and moral instruction the bedrock of education. The bill provides that students of all classes and creeds would be admitted to the university, and it is hoped that the university will be a means of better mutual understanding between various communities of the country. He also expresses the need, etc. Then, my lord, it is referred to the select committee, and now we are in the select committee's report. My lord, at page 80. The committee inserted a provision in clause 30 which provides that the first ordinances shall be framed in accordance with the directions of the Governor General in Council. Please pause here for a moment, my lord. My lord, these are the documents of governance. Statutes and ordinances are the documents of governance which are framed by the Governor General in Council under the Act. In clause 30, we have inserted a provision as to the first ordinances which shall be framed in accordance with the directions given by the Governor General in Council. The full control thereafter, my lord. We have also substituted the Lord Rector as the authority who shall nominate a High Court judge on the board to settle disputes between the Executive and Academic Council as to the power of making ordinances. This we have done so as to have wider field of selection than would have been possible if the authority has been one having no power of selection outside the United Provinces. In clause 35, we have substituted the visiting board for the court as the authority to appoint the auditor, etc., etc. My lord, I may not, my lord, further detain your lordships any further. Now, my lord, Mr. Shafi comes back, my lord, now the report comes before the Imperial Council again for discussion. That is 9 September 2020 at the foot of page 80, my lord. Mr. Shafi moved the report of the Select Committee on the bill to establish AMU. Khan Bahadur Ibrahim Harun Jafar proposed an amendment that the First Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, and Pro-Chancellor shall hold office for such period as the court may determine. Court, my lord, means the court as an authority under the Act, my lord. Mr. S. Muhammad Ali responded as follows. My lord, the amendment, if carried, would result in creating an anomalous position, both as regards the highest offices of the university and as regards the Governor General in Council. It would be ridiculous if the court, immediately after the appointment by the Governor General in Council of the First Chancellor, the Pro-Chancellor, and the Vice Chancellor, sets aside this appointment and makes fresh appointment, is hardly conceivable that any person would consent to accept any of these honorary offices under the university under those conditions. You can't have that Governor General in Council appoint 3 highly placed persons and next day the court removes them. So he says that is not acceptable. Now, Safi, my lord, Mr. Shafi repeats that, my lord, in different words. I am not, my lord, reading them. Then your lordships may, my lord, kindly come to the bottom of page 81. It was opposed by Mr. Shafi as follows. My lord, a careful examination of clause 30 as it stands in the bill will show the honorable members that the acceptance of my honorable friend's amendment will result, firstly, in deletion of subclause 2. Your lordships can skip. Come to my lord, next page, highlighted part. In the third place, my honorable friend would like the word veto being substituted for what in effect is precious approval of the Governor General in Council. Here against the Government of India are unable to accept the change proposed by my honorable friend. It will be noticed that previous sanction in the expression used in the Banaras Act, and we have in fulfillment of the pledge given to Hindu leaders at that time, in this respect, adhere to the phraseology adopted in the case of Banaras Act. The Government of India are not prepared to depart from the decision then arrived at. Government of India means, my lord, the then British government. Now, your lordships may, my lord, kindly come to the scheme of the Act, my lord. Page 85. And, my lord, allow me to, my lord, read the scheme, my lord, the way I see the scheme, because unfortunately, many provisions were not pointed out to your lordships, or pointed out only in part. AMU Act as it stood in 1920. Does it?
Yes. Page 85, right?
Yes. But 119, my lord, allow me to read this, my lord. I have paraphrased my arguments also with quoting the relevant provision, my lord.
Bottom of page 85. Page 85?
Page 85, my lord. The
Right.
title is the AMU
AMU
Act
Act as it stood in 1920.
as it stood. Because your lordships would examine the as it stood then, whether any status was conferred. The survey of provision of the Aligarh Muslim University at the time of inception of the university in 1920 clearly points towards a predominantly national and non-minority character of the university. In fact, the minority element was only present as an exception or a carve-out as opposed to the omnipresent non-minority character. A copy of the Aligarh is annexed. At the time of its inception, Section 3 provided that the first chancellor, pro-chancellor, and vice-chancellor were to be appointed by the Governor-General in Council by way of a notification in the Gazette. The Governor-General in Council being the appointing authority at the time of inception of the high positions of Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, to be reflected through a notification of India is asymptomatic of a national character. Section 30 is quoted above. My lord, I will not read that. Then, my lord, 121. Section 5, which provided for the powers of the university, had 12 subclauses, out of which 10 were clearly non-minority. My lord, Mr. Sibal read only one of the objects out of 10. My lord, allow me to read the whole. Dr. Dhawan, my lord, I'm sorry. Section 5, my lord, at page 86. The university shall have the following power, namely, to provide for instruction in such branches of learning as the university may think fit, and to make provision for research and for advancement and dissemination of knowledge, to promote Oriental and Islamic studies and give instruction in Muslim theology and religion, and to impart moral and physical training, to hold examinations, etc., etc. But the only part which is religious, which is denominational part, because the Britishers were saying that will not accept denominational character, is, my lord, at the end of 12, which was read before your lordships. I'm not reading others. They are non-religious or non-denominational. 12. To do all such other acts and things, whether incidental to the powers aforesaid or not, as may be requisite in order to further the objects of the university as a teaching and examining body, and to cultivate and promote art, science, and other branches of learning, including professional studies, technology, Islamic learning, and Muslim theology. So the My purpose, my lord, at the outset is, please take a holistic view. The history, the historical background in which the act comes into force, and the act also holistically. My lord, one provision or two provision may or may not make it a minority institution. I am, my lord, respectfully urging that the Britishers were very clear that it would be non-denominational and it would have our full control. If these are the two things, my lord, then it is not a minority institution.
Yes.
My lord, 8. Your lordships have seen this, my lord. The university shall, subject to provision of this act and the ordinances, be open to all persons of either sex and of whatever race, creed, or class. My lord, I straightway, my lord, consider as a proposition of law. A minority institution can be open to everyone, my lord. That would not, my lord, rob it of its minority character if otherwise other my lord, attributes are satisfied. But please see 30. Ordinances. The executive council, or in academic ordinances matters, the academic council may make ordinances. The first ordinances shall be framed as directed by the Governor General in Council and shall receive such previous approval as he may direct. Correct, Manoj? Not by the committee, not by the court, not by anyone else. He says non-denominational, government-controlled ordinance will be the first ordinances. And I'll show how it can be amended. It can't be amended without his approval. No new ordinance or amendment or repeal of an existing ordinance shall have any validity until it has been submitted through the court and the visiting board, which may record its opinion thereon to the Governor General in Council and has obtained the approval of the latter, who may sanction, disallow, or remit it for further consideration. See, my lord, the absolute power. But same provision is for statutes also. Unlike what was submitted before your lordships, that I make statutes, I am the court and court is 100% Muslim, which is of course deleted now in view of the new constitutional setup. Incidentally, it may be. De facto, it may be, but de jure, Lord, it is not necessary that court should be consisting of only Muslims. If any question arises between the executive and the academic council as to which has the power to make an ordinance, either council may represent the matter to the visiting board, who shall refer the same to a tribunal consisting of 3 members, one of whom shall be nominated by the executive council, one by the academic council, and one shall be a judge of a high court nominated by the Lord Rector. Lord, complete governmental control, outside control. Kerala bill, your lordships would remember, say sprinkling of outsiders. Complete control on administration by the minority community with sprinkling of outsiders. Now, my lord, further, if my lord, 32, admission to the university. My lord, this is the heart of any university administration. How to admit students. How to judge their suitability to be the student of this particular university. Admission of students to the university shall be made by an admission committee consisting of the Pro-Vice Chancellor, the principal of an intermediate college who shall be selected by the Vice Chancellor, and such other persons as may be appointed by the Academic Council. Students shall not be eligible for admission to a course of study for a degree unless they have passed the intermediate examination of an Indian university incorporated by any law for the time being in force, or an examination recognized in accordance with the provisions of this section as equivalent to the intermediate examination, and possess such further qualifications as may be prescribed by the ordinances. Again, my lord, framed above. The conditions under which students may be admitted to the diploma courses of the university shall be prescribed by the ordinances. Court can do nothing to the ordinance except suggesting some amendment which can be discarded, which can be disallowed or remitted back. The conditions, the university shall not, save with the previous sanction of the Governor General in Council, recognize for the purpose of admission to a course of study for a degree as equivalent to its own degrees, any degree conferred by any other university or as equivalent to the intermediate examination of an Indian university, any examination conducted by any other authority. Notwithstanding anything contained in this act or the ordinances, any student of the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, Aligarh, who immediately before the commencement of this act was studying for the examination of Allahabad, no, that's the transitory provision, nothing turns on that. Then 124.
23 may be read.
123, bro. Section 9, on which considerable reliance has been placed, also merely creates an island of minority education by giving the power to the court to make statutes making institution in Muslim religion compulsory only for Muslim students and not otherwise. This provision does not define the predominant character of the institution at the time of its inception. My lord, I'm thankful, my lord, to my learned friend. After the constitution to make it Article 29 compliant, this is deleted in 1951, 70 plus years back. This is deleted by the parliament, by Indian parliament, to bring this in conformity with Article 29 of the constitution.
29?
28.
28,
I said
not 29.
28. My apologies.
That will in fact show, or probably it was a minority institution.
Show of
That it was probably a minority institution. Because otherwise state-funded institutions, religious education is not permitted.
correct. The provision concerning teaching of the university at the time of its inception also overwhelmingly includes only secular education, which is evident from the fact that it is include lecturing, laboratory work, tutorials, etc., etc. Now, my lord, please see the actual governance documents. Para 125. As per section 27, statutes could provide for conferment of honorary degrees, appointment of rectors, institution of fellowship, scholarship, the conditions of appointment of officers of the university, etc. But the first statutes of the university were framed not by the court, but by the legislature as set out in the schedule to the original act in terms of section 28. Therefore, the first statute at the time of inception, which could have provided for wide array of powers and functions and administration, section 30 subarticle 1, article 30 subarticle 1, administration, when it is established, what is the position within the university were not framed by the minority but by the federal legislature itself. Further, as per section 28, the said first statutes framed by the federal legislature could be amended, please note this, repealed or added by the court only after it had been approved by the Governor General in Council. Now the Governor, my lord, now there is an amendment because there is no Governor General in Council. Now Governor of the state, Governor of Uttar Pradesh. Amended, repealed or added by the court only after it had been approved by the Governor General in Council, who also had the power to disallow proposals for amendment of such statutes. It's not binding. It's not like, my lord, the resolution passed by the cabinet that the governor is bound. He can only refer it once. No, he can straightway say that I don't agree. I reject it. I'll show that provision also. The only carve out from this power of the Governor General is Council was that statute dealing with instruction of Muslim student in Muslim theology were not required to be submitted for approval. Rest everything goes for approval to the governor having full power to reject it. Therefore, while the statutes and the power to control the statute predominantly vested in a non-minority authority, only a small portion as a sprinkling minority were provided. My lord, now please see, my lord, section 23. My lord, before that, my lord, please see section 28, statutes. The first statutes were also provided by the legislature. It was not left to any body, academic council or executive council or even the court. So at the time of establishment of AMU, no decision making was done by anyone other than the legislative council. First ordinances, first statutes, and both the documents of governance. It's a part of the act itself. Now please see, my lord. This is section 28. My lord, now I take your lordship, my lord, to some of the other provisions of the act, my lord. Please see page 148 and 149 of this very my lord, document. London is right, my lord. I'll just I skip, my lord, some provisions. Before that, thereafter I'll come to, my lord. Page. Kindly come back to page 89. I'm sorry, my lord. My apologies to your lordships. My lord,
Mr. Mehta, the term used in the constitution is administration.
Yes, lord.
Now, administration.
Administer.
Administer. Now, the issue would be whether day-to-day task of administration or administering the institution is vested with the community. That will be the test, or it will be the test to see, as pointed out by some of the councils on the other side, de facto who had the control, who were in charge and taking decisions. You may be right. As far as the first ordinances, etc., as pointed out by you, these are all made by the government had a big role to play in it. We don't know what really were the nature and structure of those ordinances.
I'll show that. I'm going to show that, and even
And
those.
just keep in mind also Article 28 and the bar created or restrictions created by that. Because Article 28 clause 1 says no religious education, etc., in the fully government aided institutions.
Yes. But that's going to be, yes, but that's why there is an amendment.
And that's why I flagged when you referred to the deletion made by 1951 amendment in terms of, that is really in terms of clause 3 of Article 28.
Yes, it says so.
Because it gives an option to
voluntarily you can't be compelled.
Voluntarily, compulsorily
you can't be compelled. You can voluntarily have that. But then ordinances, my lord, page 90 at the foot. As I said, my lord, first ordinances are framed by the framed as directed by Governor General in Council, etc. My lord, I have read, my lord. Please, my lord, come to page 91, section 12. Lordship gets, my lord. I'm sorry, my lord.
Even amendment. First, gave one.
Page 91, section
Page
12.
Page 91,
Section 12.
section 12.
The university shall, subject to the statutes, have power to establish and maintain intermediate colleges and schools within such limits in the Aligarh district as may be laid down in the ordinances for the purpose of preparing students for admission to the university, and may provide for instruction in Muslim religion and theology in any of such colleges and schools, with the approval of the academic council and the sanction of the governor general in council on recommendation of the visiting board, the subject to such conditions as may be prescribed by the statute and the ordinances, the university may admit intermediate colleges, etc. The purpose is that decision making is not in the hands of a body having Muslim majority. My lord, administration is not, my lord, a peon is also a part of the administration, a clerk is also a part of the administration, but when we are talking of an institution like university, administration is the body which administers the university. The rest of the people would do their part assigned to them as decided by the administering body. Lord, otherwise,
The
my lord,
reason why I asked that question was prior to 1947, the British government could have established an institution and also, formulated the role of the people, but given the administration to the Muslims or the Hindus.
my lord, because of a request which I read that I don't insist, you don't want to make it, but please, you have respected local sentiments in Hindus, respect local sentiments of Muslims, not with an intention to make it a minority institution. Therefore, my lord, I read that inclusion of Muslims, which is also, my lord, deleted subsequently, I'll show that. But right now I am on 20 Act as it stood on 20. That was also, my lord, with a review to respect the sentiments, not with an intention of conferring any status. Banaras Hindu University had the court having Hindus. So it was more, my lord, out of a gesture of goodwill rather than, my lord, conferring any enforceable right on the institution. So then section 13. The Governor General shall be the Lord Rector of the university. The Lord Rector shall have the right to cause an inspection to be made by such person or persons as he may direct of the university, its buildings, laboratories and equipment, and of any institution maintained by the university, and also of the examinations, teaching and other work, etc., etc. My lord, everything is conferred upon the Lord Rector, but please see subsection 5, where the court does not within reasonable time take action to the satisfaction of Lord Rector. Now, my lord, it is governor. The Lord Rector may, after considering any explanation furnished or representation made by the court, issue such directions as he may think fit, and the court shall comply with such directions. Complete predominant supervening powers conferred upon the governor, because it has always been the desire and stated wish of the Britishers that we will have effective government control. You accept it or you do not accept it. And this is where the government control is accepted, is, my lord, reflected. Then, my lord, annual accounts will also be, my lord, placed before the visiting board and Lord Rector, my lord, non-Muslim bodies, and to be published in Gazette of India. Then, my lord, last is section 40, power to remove difficulties. If any difficulty arises with respect to the establishment of the university or any authority of the university, or in connection with the first meeting of any authority of the university, the Governor General in Council may, by order, make any appointment or do anything which appears to him necessary or expedient for the proper establishment of the university or any authority thereof, or for the first meeting of any authority or university. Any such order may modify the provisions of this act and the statute so far as so and so, so and so. Now, your lordships, my lord, kindly come to page 139, the act, my lord, and some provisions which are not quoted here.
139.
139. No, again, it's an act, printed act. We do not say that we merge or we recognize your existence and convert you into the university. Well, there are two types of legislations. Well, please, my lord, bear one fact in mind, and this is, my lord, going to the root of the question when your lordship ultimately decides the issue. Well, some legislations can be legislations which recognizes an existing fact. I'll show, my lord, those. There are some universities where such things have happened. And some legislations which in law establishes or incorporates something new. A new entity comes into being. A new entity is born. This is a legislation where it's not recognizing anything. It establishes and incorporates a new entity. And this judgment in Basha is only 1920 Act specific. It does not lay down a law of universal application, that once you are incorporated, you are not a minority institution. I'll also show, I'm sorry. Other side reads Basha to mean that if you are incorporated as an university, from date of incorporation, your minority status goes. That's not what Basha holds. Basha merely examines at 1920 Act and says that you are not the university which is minority university. I will show examples post constitution also. Minority universities can be incorporated. How? That I'll show. Please see, my lord, the preamble. Whereas it is expedient to establish and incorporate a teaching and residential Muslim university at Aligarh. So the purpose is to establish and incorporate. By whom? Lord, by the legislature. Not only a new body is born, the earlier body goes by operation of law. It merges, it dies. You are not. It's dissolved, my lord. The correct word is not merger, it's dissolved into this new entity. It dies, my lord. So new body takes birth by operation of law. It is established by operation of law, incorporated by operation of law, and this is what it says. Whereas it is expedient to establish and incorporate a teaching and residential Muslim university at Aligarh and to dissolve the society registered under the Societies Registration Act, because there cannot be two statutory bodies simultaneously. Therefore, one is born, another gets dissolved, it dies. Then your lordships and my lord kindly come to section 4. I'm sorry, my lord, page 140. Section 4. Lordships are on section 4, my lords.
Yes.
I'm grateful, my lord. The society is known as Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, Aligarh, and the Muslim University Association shall be dissolved, and all properties, movable and immovable, and all rights, powers, and privileges of the said societies, and all property, movable and immovable, and all rights, powers, and privileges of the Muslim University Foundation Committee shall be transferred to and vest in the university. And please mark this, my lord, this is relevant, and shall be applied to the objects and purposes for which the university is incorporated, not for the objects and purposes of either MAO or other institutes, which gets dissolved, which dies, and the new body takes, my lord, birth. Now, your lordship, my lord, kindly come to page 140.
Just stopping here for a minute.
Yes, my lord.
NAO College
Yes.
and Muslim University Association, as per your argument, even they may be a minority institution in terms of Article 30, but after they got dissolved into it, they cease to be that character will not be relevant.
No, my lord, I would put it slightly differently. My lord, they had a denominational character. There was no Article 30.
No, I know, but if we applied Article 30 to
yes.
them, if we
They
applied
may
the-
have denominational character, but in view of the peculiar historical facts which Basha notes, once you agree to the terms and conditions of the government, and Parliament by an act of legislature dissolves your existence and gives birth to a new body, the earlier one goes.
First, this is your first, in fact, the first one was earlier, they agreed to give up certain rights, and therefore, and the second was the incorporation or the establishment.
Surrender the rights. That's how, that's the ratio of Basha.
But as far as MAO is concerned and Muslim University Association is concerned, they were distinctly a minority in case we applied Article 30.
May have been, may have been. But they could have, my lord, I'm answering it straight. They could have continued even if they were minority institutions, as minority institutions, the way St. Stephen continued, the way, my lord, Jamia continued, the way many other, my lord, linguistic establishments continued. There were many linguistic, my lord, not establishment, institutions which were, my lord, continuing, and their degrees were more valuable. My lord, this Roorkee may not have been, my lord, a minority institution, but there were minority institutions. St. Stephen is the best example. Closest, my lord. The Delhi University was incorporated simultaneously with Allahabad University, merged, 5 universities were merged into one, and this continued its independent minority existence. At that time, even St. Stephen had an option of going before the British Crown and requested, pass an act for me. And British Crown would have said that these are my conditions. You will not be denominational Christian institute. You will have a full control of the government. If you agree, we'll consider your plan. That's what, my lord, Herbert Harcourt Butler says, that we will consider. Permission is given to consider your negotiations. All objects go, everything goes, because it says that now the money would be spent for the objects of this newly born statutory body.
Do you have any material on record to show that what were the recurring expenditure of the university from 1920 to 1950 and who funded those?
My lord, as of now, my lord, the government funded, the figure, my lord, I can take it, but as of now, it's 1,500 crores per annum.
To 1950.
1950. My lord, My lord, I'll try and find
In
out.
the
There may be
registrar
something on record.
Of Aligarh, my lord, that it was about 25%. This is an instruction.
We will check up, my lord. We'll say as per the.
Recognized by the government.
No, no, it. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. My learned friend is arguing some other matter between the two of us, my lord. My lord, Saint Stephen is decided to be minority institution by a 5-judge bench of this honorable court. So I cannot make any other submission, my lord. And if I have other submissions, I'll make in appropriate proceedings at an appropriate time, my lord. My learned friend cannot, my lord, apply the estoppel rule against me. Yes. My lord, please see, my lord, page 143. Why everything was surrendered. Apart from, my lord, their political affiliation, I'm not going into it. That they were loyalists to the British. They were entitled to be. Anyone, my lord, can be loyalist to either A, B, C, any. I'm not, my lord, on any value judgment. But they wanted recognition of their degrees. That is section 6 of this act. The degrees, diplomas, and other academic distinctions granted or conferred to or on persons by the university shall be recognized by the government. I'm sorry. My lord, eminent universities and eminent institutions were conferring degrees. Only thing was not recognized by the British government. Now, please see 6, my lord, I'm sorry. I'll read it again. The degrees, diplomas, and other academic distinctions granted or conferred to or on persons by the university shall be recognized by the government, as are the corresponding degrees, diplomas, and other academic distinctions granted by any other university incorporated under any enactment. Please, my lord, underline this portion. The degree granted by AMU would be at par with degree of any incorporated university, not Gujarat Vidyapit, not Vishwa Bharati, not any other institute, but by the bodies, my lord, which are by the universities which are incorporated by the British sovereign, that is the Parliament. Now, your lordships, my lord, kindly see 146, my lord. My lord, visiting board, my lord, section 14. Please see, my lord, visiting board. Visiting board of the university, if and when the United Provinces of Agra and Audh becomes a governor's province, Awadh, my lord, why should we say Audh, my lord? The Britishers were unable to pronounce, therefore they used to say Audh. It's Awadh, my lord, as our Agra and Awadh become a governor's province within the meaning of the Government of India Act, shall consist of governor thereof, the members of the Executive Council, the ministers, one member nominated by the governor, and one member nominated by the minister in charge of education. No Muslims.
See section 7, by the way, apropos what fell
I'm
from my learned brother Justice Surya Khan.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a very interesting provision. Because I was trying to track whether this act had any provision for finance. It has no provision for finance. It has a provision for audit and accounts, but no provision for finance. See section 7. The university.
I'll read.
Yeah.
Your lordship need not. The university shall invest and keep invested in securities in which trust funds may be invested in accordance with law for the time being in force relating to trusts in British India, a sum of 30 lakhs of rupees as a permanent endowment to meet the recurring charges of the university other than charges in respect of fellowships, scholarships, prizes, and award, provided that any government securities as defined in the Indian Securities Act 1920, which may be held by the university shall, for the purpose of this section, be reckoned at their face value. The aforesaid sum of 30 lakhs shall be reduced by such sums as at the commencement of this act, the Governor General in Council shall, by order in writing, declare to be the total capitalized value for the purpose of this section. All permanent recurring grants of money which have been made either to the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, Aligarh, Muslim University Association or Muslim University Foundation by any ruler of a state of India, and of the total income accruing from immovable property not being land or buildings in the occupation and use of said college, which by operation of this act has been transferred to the university. But
So does section 7 mean that the entire 30 lakhs, which was the initial corpus, was really what was transferred from the erstwhile MAO
Correct.
and the Muslim University Association?
4 also says that. Please see, my lord, 4, once again, my lord, 4 also says that. Therefore, my lord, I say that while dissolving one body, something, the act will have to do something about the property of that body.
But the entire corpus of the university therefore came from the MAO
My lord, good.
and the
My
Muslim
lord, I'm
University
sorry.
Foundation.
I'm sorry, my lord, factually it's not correct, my lord, but what, my lord, would be necessary would be establishment and administration. An entire, yes, my lord, not
But
finance.
establishment, the finance would have some bearing on establishment, right? The person who has established, if they have contributed to the finance, that's a very important indicator.
30 lakhs, 30 lakhs
The
came
initial
from
stage.
Islam, my lord.
30 lakhs came from several people, including Hindu Rajas, Hindu kings.
What has been transferred includes the recurring grants also which were being given.
I'll give that bifurcation of 30 lakhs. But from the record, I'll show that. Government land is 75 acres. Do you please give the value of that?
In the record, I didn't want to interpret whether it fell.
But once the
I'll
land
show
is
from the record.
transferred, it becomes the land of the college or university.
Naturally.
So there's no point saying it came as a grant, but it became the exclusive property
Naturally.
of MAO and then the
But just
university.
visualize if I would have done it. What they are doing it.
What?
No.
I
My
can
lord,
never visualize.
there was a barrage, my lord.
I could
Here
never-
we are merely pointing out few things.
We'll continue tomorrow.
I could never.
Tomorrow, my lord.
Roughly,
Grateful.
Mr. Solicitor, how long will you take tomorrow?
My lord, I'll take about, my lord, 3 hours. My lord, I can assure your lordships not to repeat anything, and I'll attempt not to be boring also.
That's just an attempt.
They'll also ensure that.
Yes, sir.
But would it be possible for you to finish by tomorrow lunch if we say,
May
because,
not be possible.
because
May-
3 hours would take us to about, say, 2:30. So we
May
were just
not
saying
be
if you can wrap up by lunch, it would be
My
nice.
lord, there are other points other than this, my lord, for which, my lord, I'll
And
give some
thereafter,
time to us.
Mr. Kaul will take, Mr. Dwivedi will argue or Mr. Kaul? Who will? Hour and a half after this?
There's something I need to show about the judgments itself.
All right. Mr. Dwivedi is also there.
Mr. Dwivedi, Mr. Guru Krishna Kumar, my lord,
Lords, I won't repeat, Lords. I was looking at 1.5, but I think I'll reduce myself after all this is done. I'll reduce myself.
We were looking at whether we can wrap up arguments on this side by tomorrow evening.
but that,
Maybe a little
that,
difficult, little difficult.
that may not be
Little-
realistic, even if we
Maybe
say
a
yes.
little spillover to day after tomorrow.
That's right.
But day after tomorrow is Thursday. which is a
Good,
miscellaneous
go
day.
to, my lord, another.
Right.
Bless you.